The last three blessings of the Amidah are always the same, regardless of what special day it is. The first one, Retzeh, needs a little bit of parsing to fit it into my theology, at least. Because it sort of goes back and forth between asking God to accept our prayers, which I think is great, and asking God to rebuild the temple, which I'm not so into. And so the way I reconcile those is to say, we're asking God to accept our prayers the way they were accepted back in the day when the temple stood. And even if we don't want the temple actually restored and animal sacrifice restored, we would like to be able to commune with God in the same way that we were able to back then. And the Chatima is Hamachazir Shchinato Letzion, God who returns God's presence to Zion, which is to say to Jerusalem, which is something I very much want. Not in the form of a temple being rebuilt on the Temple Mount, but in the form of God's presence dwelling there and it being a place of peace and justice for all the people who find that city holy. And then we move into Modim, which is a prayer of thanksgiving. And it has two texts. One that we say when we daven, when the Shliach Tzibur leads the repetition, and one that the rest of us, the congregation, says quietly. And I think historically speaking, there were just two different texts, two different schools of rabbis had their own received tradition, so they compromised. Like, okay, we'll say your version out loud, we'll say your version quietly, everyone's happy. And then we end on the line of peace, which just drives home the message that that's the ultimate goal that we're working towards in the world. And that wraps up the Amidah.